Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. I'll now call a meeting to order and announce the territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Administrative and procedural issues, 2.1, approval of the agenda. The recommended motion is that the agenda be approved as presented. If there are no changes, Mr. Herrick?
We have one change, Your Worship, and that is 2.5.1, which is public hearings. There is a demolition order request on the agenda, and Director Cole advises that there have been discussions with the property owner sufficient to prompt him to defer this item pending a positive outcome.
Okay. Any other changes or additions?
Not that I'm aware of.
Seeing none, now I will accept the motion from Councillor Strong and the second from Councillor Lee to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Point your eyes to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, whereby members are required to declare a conflict of interest prior to any discussion on the matter. 2.3, approval of the minutes of the May 26, 2025 regular council meeting. A motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councillor Lockhart. Seconded by Councillor Fromm. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Business arising. I'll turn that over to our CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. A fair amount of business arising in the council package this time around starts at page 10. This first one relates to business arising from the May council meeting, and happy to report that all items are complete with the exception of scheduling a public hearing for the amendment of the proposed amendment to the land use bylaw rezoning multiple PIDs along the Wyvern Road and Wentworth Collingwood Road, and that is just on hold for a little bit while the proponent provides some more information at their request. All right. Any questions before I move on?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Page 11 relates to ongoing items from council meetings. Sale of surplus property on Clark Street, still in progress, has been for a while. We've requested a survey, I believe, of that property, and so that's taking us a little bit of time. Demolition order for 191 McGee, again, has been around for a bit. I know that Director Cole has been in touch with the property owner and has provided a deadline for the cleanup, and we expect to see some movement there in the next month or so. The designation of the Swan Creek Protected Wilderness Area, we are waiting on the province of Nova Scotia to provide documentation. The Shaw Rural Housing Development Agreement Spring Hill has been executed, and the termination of the lease with respect to the tenant at Cape Door and the review of potential options for the operation of the site are in progress. I know that there'll be some activity on that in the first few days of next month. Any questions before I move on?
See none, go ahead.
Page 12 relates to business arising from the special council meeting on June 11th, and most items, not most, a couple of items are complete and the rest are in progress. In progress is notification of grant recipients, the status of their application with respect to requests for financial assistance, and I think that all applicants have been contacted, and we're just making arrangements now for presentation of the checks, and councils, members of council are involved in that. I know that you are, Your Worship. Notification of appointments to the Cumberland Water Utility Source Water Advisory Committee. That's quite a mouthful. That is in progress. I think the letters are ready. I'm not sure that they've gone yet. And the letter from the Mayor and Council to Premier Houston regarding uranium exploration. The letter is ready for council signature this evening, so we'll do that before we leave tonight. Any questions before I move on?
Seeing none, go ahead, sir.
The last one is page 13, which is the ongoing action list from special council meetings. Number of items, most items are complete. The demolition 2 South Street is in progress and will be progressing soon. Demolition of the building located at 46 Church Street in Spring Hill, that's complete. There is a demolition of 3276 Highway 2 in Parsboro. And Al, can you update me? That's in progress? That is?
Yes, that's in progress.
So that one is still in progress and ongoing. The demolition of the building located at 11890 Highway 2 in Leamington. I believe the contract has been awarded and we're waiting for Nova Scotia Power to disconnect power. Is that correct?
Power was disconnected yesterday. Contractor is scheduled to be on site
So we expect that to happen on this Friday, which is the day after tomorrow, correct? Yes. And the billing and collection of village, the billing and sending bills for River Hibbert and Pugwash Village Commission rates is complete. Any questions, Your Worship?
Seeing none, thank you very much,
You are welcome.
Mr. Harrod. Strategic priority issues is where we're at next, right? 3.1, intermunicipal agreement with the town of Amherst regarding connection to Amherst sewer system and mutual boundary change.
It's me.
That's you, Mr. Harrod.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. This is pursuant to, this item is pursuant to an intermunicipal agreement signed between the county and the town of Amherst back in early October of 2024. And at the time, we would have talked about what an accomplishment this is and how proud we are to have come to a cooperative solution with the town of Amherst. And I think we can say that again. I don't think we can say it too many times, given the ground that we've covered in the last probably couple of decades with the town of Amherst and in our relationship. And so this is a significant milestone. This originates from discussions with the town and Shaw Rural Housing regarding the development of what is commonly known as the Dolan lands of Brookdale, formerly the soccer fields in Brookdale. Town has had a long-standing policy of not extending its sanitary sewer service beyond its boundary. And while there were some exceptions, like a memorandum of understanding regarding West Amherst and an extension to the regional hospital a few decades ago, the policy remained in effect prior to the recently signed agreement. The history is that the municipality was approached by Shaw Rural Housing in the town of Amherst about a potential development straddling the municipal boundary in Brookdale, one piece of property, one PID. Initial discussions were had about a joint development agreement covering lands in both municipal units. The Shaw proposal was contemplating about 400 potential units in the area just outside the boundary, the parcel referred to as the Dolan lands. We had some productive and cordial conversations with Shaw and with the town of Amherst early on, but they were complex. Service provision and tax rates and the joint development agreement became quite challenging and complex. It became obvious that in order to move this along and to provide and facilitate the potential for that housing, there had to be a better way. So the municipality, we proposed that instead of a joint development agreement on those lands, an arrangement be negotiated whereby the municipality would provide support for a mutual boundary change to take in the portion, for the town of Amherst to take in the portion of that piece of property that was outside of the town of Amherst, inside of the town of Amherst. In return for that, Amherst would provide access to its wastewater, its sewer treatment system in the amount of 400 residential connections in a defined area outside Amherst, around the boundary of Amherst, mostly in the southeast and south area, but there are some other exceptions. So after some back and forth and some negotiations facilitated with some help from our friends at Cox and Palmer, we were able to come to an agreement, and that was signed, I believe, on October 4th. The agreement required, though, a number of changes to bylaws, policies, and some resolutions to be passed by both councils. So while the agreement had been signed early last fall, the implementation required some further work. That work is done, and there were a list of bylaws and policies for the town of Amherst to consider beginning the process of amending, and that happened on Monday night at their council meeting. They've given first reading to a few bylaws, and they've given notice in terms of a few policies, and they've provided and approved a motion to write a letter to the Utility and Review Board, or its successor organization, to request mutual boundary change. The municipality's role in that, there were a few items to be taken care of, and I've set those out at page 25 in the council's package. In terms of our bylaw and policy amendments, The public sewers bylaw will require amendments set out in attachment A, and essentially it, without going through all of the details line by line by line, would put a sewer customer in the municipality just outside the town of Amherst who is connecting to the town's infrastructure in the same position as a town of Amherst sewer customer within the town itself, subject to the same rules, subject to the same rates, and that the infrastructure standards also be the same. The other change that is put forward in that bylaw is the mechanism for collection. So while some of these sewer customers, when they are connected, if they are connected, would be residents and they're of Cumberland County, and their property would be in Cumberland County, in order to collect delinquent accounts and be able to register a lien on those accounts, they need to be, the debt needs to be in our name. So the bylaw amendment provides a mechanism for that transfer of debt. Secondly, the land use bylaw will require a minor amendment on the section on site plans. Simply, and we've put forward a couple of other housekeeping amendments to that bylaw to also facilitate the agreement. But simply, this is for the confirmation that one of these 400 units that we're getting has been allocated to a piece of property before the actual connection would happen. And so that we're going to hardwire that in the land use bylaw. The fees policy, our fees policy, will need to be amended to introduce application fees for connection to the Amherst system. And we'll talk about that at a later date when we consider second reading, but essentially it's $100 for an application, and if the application is approved, $100 per unit for allocation of sewer connections. Finally, in order to support the boundary change applications, propose that council approve a resolution of support, and then if council is able to provide that approval, I will write to the CAO in Amherst, and that will form part of the application package that Amherst will submit to the Utility and Review Board to request the mutual boundary change. Just before I go back to the recommendation, just talk about some of the details of the agreement. The town will, by way of a mutual boundary change application, take in the portion of the Dolan lands that are currently in the municipality. I already talked about that. Municipality will have access to 400 units of residential sewer connection in the defined service boundary just outside the Amherst town boundary. We've talked about that. There are provisions for both municipal units to share any commercial taxes that arise from commercial development. We think it's probably limited commercial development potential, but if there is any, on the Dolan lands and in the newly serviced areas just outside the town of Amherst. So there's provisions for both units to share in commercial development. As I said earlier, all new connections would become customers of the Amherst Sewer Department and would be subject to the same rates, charges, and regulations as customers within Amherst, and that is required to be an ongoing condition. So there won't be an opportunity, for example, for a future council in Amherst to decide that county customers should pay more than town customers. So it's hardwired so they will be the same. There will also be regulations put in place, and essentially it's in the approval process, regulations put in place to ensure that new development on the periphery of Amherst does not impact existing peak stormwater flows in Amherst. So at a very high level, to ensure that development, let's say in the John Black Road area, and we all know how it kind of slopes, what the topography is there, doesn't impact the stormwater drainage system in the town of Amherst and overwhelm it. So mitigations would have to be put in place. With all of that, there are 3 separate recommended resolutions. And one is that the municipality of the County of Cumberland agrees to the mutual boundary change application of the town to the Nova Scotia Energy and Regulatory Boards Tribunal regarding the Shaw Group Limited property known as PID 2503 8720. That's the first one. I'll come back to them. That's the first one. The second is that council approved first reading of the bylaw to amend the public sewers bylaw 2508. and that will also be a separate resolution. And the third is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 2509 and direct staff to schedule a public hearing in respect of the bylaw. Before I just pass it to Glenn briefly to talk about the land use bylaw amendment, I want to talk just a little bit about the timeline and in terms of what the process is and what happens next. So we're in June of 2025. These are the initial changes. Council will be considering first reading of a couple of bylaws. That happened in Amherst also earlier this week. The town will then submit its application to the Utility Review Board. We expect that through July to September, the board will consider the application for boundary change and go through its process, which will include public advertisement. There isn't a requirement for a hearing under this section of the Act because it's an agreed upon, it's not an adversarial change. However, there will be public notice and an opportunity for interveners to intervene in the board process, and the board will decide whether there needs to be further public input. We expect, based on conversations, although there are no guarantees, a board approval of the application sometime early in the fall, probably not late in the summer, early in the fall. And we are requesting, or it is being requested, that the board's response to the application be a conditional approval, conditional upon each of the councils approving second reading of the documents that are before them, and then the policy amendments that are before them. So, with that in mind, we are starting the process at first reading of these two bylaw amendments, and we're starting the process with a resolution of support for the boundary change. We don't expect to revisit this until we hear from the board on the application, and when they provide their response, and if it is positive, we would then begin the process for second reading. There would be a public hearing. Council would consider second reading of these two bylaws, and we would put the fees policy before you as well. And once those are complete, and once the town's second readings are complete, then the agreement would have legal impact. The property would be formally within the boundary of the town of Amherst, and we would properly have access to those sewer connections, subject to the process that's set out in the agreement. A lot of stuff there, Your Worship. I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have before we go on to the resolutions. And then we'll get Glenn to talk about the land use bylaw.
Sure. Go ahead. Any questions from council? Don't see any. I assume we'll move on.
I think I should say, thank you for that. So I think I should say that I'll take the lack of questions from council as an indicator that folks are fairly well versed in this issue. Because it's a legal agreement, because it relates to a land transaction, we've had multiple conversations on an in-camera basis. And not only is there a good understanding, I believe there's widespread support for it as well. Move on and I'll have Mr. Boone talk briefly about the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw. Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Harrod, and Your Worship, members of council. This is basically a text amendment to align with the IMA, the new agreement. Mr. Harrod's detailed out the process and discussion in the background, so not any reason for me to focus on that. So just going to talk quickly about what changes are in the report in detail. Details in your report, and I will kind of summarize it. These changes are just really highlighted around some definitions. And as Mr. Harrod mentioned, there was some consideration for when we review development permits in advance of building permits, is that one of the processes is to review the site plan and the details that come with that. And what we're putting in this process is just to deal with what they call the capacity allocation. So that's just the tracking of the 400 units that was described in the overall report. And in order to do that, we made that amendment to 3.3.2, was just adding that line about when we review development permits, one of the things we're looking for is that capacity allocation has been approved. When we looked at the definitions, there was a lot of information back and forth with the process between the town and the municipality and Cox Palmer. There was a number of definitions that were created. So we're just bringing those into the bylaw. There's 7 new definitions. One actually replaces an old definition, so you'll see in your bylaw, we're now adding commercial sanitary service, which is to make more clarity with regards to a couple zones and sections, which you see in 10.3 and 11.2.3. So essentially, it's housekeeping, bringing text together that will allow the IMA to flow when we get into the development process, which of course we're looking forward to seeing happen. So happy to answer any questions, but the information and all the definitions, I can speak to them individually if required. Your worship?
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone.
One more thing before you finish up.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gould.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just one for clarification, and for those who don't know the area, there's the Amherst town boundary sign is right there across from the end of the field, and then there's 2 residential houses there that are in the county, and this property of land goes behind them houses and comes up on the county side of the second house. So my question is, when they do get to a point of developing, they're probably gonna put a roadway out beyond them 2 houses out into the county side to get out of that area. Will the sign change, or will that road still be county road? I'm just curious how that works, and I thought I'd save my question for you because I thought you might have had more experience with that sort of.
Your worship, I can answer in general, but it would be apt to see the whole development plan, which we have seen. So roads that would be within the town boundary, the new town boundary, would be municipally owned roads, like owned by the town of Amherst as part of that development. Or how they agree to develop it, if they do a development agreement, there could be some private roadways and laneways within the development. But any roads that are meant to be public within that development would be town streets.
Correct.
Because it would now be part of the town boundary under this change.
So the actual main road though, Highway 204, would be considered town there as well, is that, would I be correct in
I'll
saying that?
probably defer to the CAO, but it would still be a.
The boundary change, yeah, I'll
Change,
take that. So
will
the
change.
boundary change is about the PID and only about the PID.
Okay.
And the road parcel is not part of the PID, it's a separate one. So in terms of where the boundary is on that, is it 204?
204, yeah.
On 204, it would stay, in terms of when you're standing on the blacktop, it'll
yes.
be the same.
Still a DOT
Perfect.
right away.
Yeah, that's great, thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Go ahead, Mr.
Just,
Hart.
yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank a few people. First of all, I just want to thank Glenn and Justin from the municipality, from our staff, for their work on this. I also want to take 2 minutes and recognize the former council our former council who saw the value in this and pressed forward and approved the initial agreement. You know, and that included former Mayor Scott and the other members, and so appreciate that. I also want to thank the town of Amherst. We have a long history of not getting things like this done, of not even wanting to talk about getting things like this done. And really happy to say that we've got it done and to be part of it. So I do want to thank the Amherst Council and the former Amherst Council, and that would include, you know, former Mayor David Cogan, and also current Mayor Rob Small and their respective councils, and Jason McDonald, my counterpart in Amherst. And finally, Kevin Latimer, who was the counsel from Cox and Palmer, who provided us with legal counsel and kind of facilitated the process and brought it across the finish line. So really pleased, Your Worship, to recommend these resolutions to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. And I echo those words too, and hopefully more projects in the near future, so, in conjunction with the town of Amherst. Okay, the motions are, one after another, 3 of them to be made. We're gonna do them one at a time. The first one is that the municipality of the County of Cumberland Council agrees to the mutual boundary change application of the town of Amherst to the Nova Scotia Energy and Regulatory Boards Tribunal regarding the Shaw Group Limited property known as PID number 25038720. Somebody'd like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councillor Fromm and seconded by Councillor McCormick. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. The next motion is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the public sewers bylaw 25-08. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, seconded by Councilor Redmond. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Recommended motion, the third one, is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-09 and direct staff to schedule a public hearing in respect to the bylaw. Moved by Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Hotelling. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. There are no, well done, folks. I will say this. No major organizational items. Number 5, organizational policy and bylaw items. 5.1, second reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-06 to rezone multiple PIDs adjacent to Fox Harbor Resort. Director Boone, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Worship. Just going to quickly change screens, so just bear with me. Your Worship, this is an application that council's now had before them on 2 different occasions, first reading and as well as the public hearing. So this is the next step in council's consideration and deliberation on the application. So just to highlight again, Fox Harbor, as we all know, is celebrating its 25th anniversary. The development has changed over the years, but primarily it's been zoned as commercial recreation, and this is an opportunity for them to expand some of the buffer area that they have along the development, but also to allow for another development of housing. The housing that's is proposed here is to the right on that map on the screen, and it's an opportunity to create housing that just gives them a little bit of a different housing stock that they can offer to the market. Multiple PIDs are involved as we talked through this at the public hearing and at the first reading stage, and a lot of what's happening here is land consolidation to create buffer from the development as a whole. So just zooming in, we often we take these maps when it's a big parcel, we'll zoom in a little bit, but without talking too much about it, just gives you an idea of where the changes are in the parcels that are involved. But we also provide these map changes through work we've done with Amanda and Peter when we're providing the final documents to the Department of Municipal Affairs. So it just makes it clear, just so you understand that when we zoom in, we just provide a little bit more information in those bylaws. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We did talk about this during the public hearing and probably gave a little more detail at first reading because I want council to have assurances of that. We've done our review, we've looked at policy, and in this case, we basically have a couple of concepts here. One that's showing where the new developments was happening on the air photo to the right, and also kind of a concept layout of how the development would lay itself out with the 29 new lots. So you can see they would be similar to any other private road development we have within the municipality. Obviously, Fox Harbor enhances the quality on those private roads because they, in pretty much all cases, will pave their roads as well. So to get us to the recommendation, I've talked about before about a large, development. It's an economic driver, plus it's a large taxpayer. So no reason to spend too much more time on that than we've done in the past. Environmental implications, we've done extensive amount of work in discussions with Fox Harbor on their operating sewage system, and that is operating under a permit with the Nova Scotia Department of Environment. Plus, they are tracking the number of units that can safely be developed and attached to that system. So they still have some growth even after these 29 new lots. And as we go through subdivisions and Kira looks at new subdivision plans, we ask those questions in that process. So community engagement, everything was advertised under the Municipal Government Act, Your Worship. All the ads were duly noted on our website. We still put one ad in a newspaper. Normally, we look to where we get the biggest coverage. In this case, we use the Chronicle Herald, and we do put things on our social media as well. Daryl's good to give advance notice or additional notice just as we go towards the public hearings. Staff received one comment from the public. They were just asking about when the reports would be posted and the actual date of the public hearing, so that interaction did occur. And at the public hearings, Mr. Peter Phillips, their Director of Development, Fox Harbor, talked about the development as in a holistic approach. And we had one additional member of the public that did attend. They chose not to speak, but they did talk to myself and Mr. Phillips afterwards and were satisfied with both the reports, Your Worship, and the interactions and the explanations that were given at the public hearing. So unless there's specific questions, recommendations before you, and happy to clarify if needed.
Anyone have any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll read the motion. The recommended motion is that council approve second reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-06 to rezone PIDs 2517-1232, 2546-6319, 2548-9733, 2517-1471, adjacent to Fox Harbor Resort, from agricultural AG zone to commercial C-rec zone. If somebody would like to make that motion, please. Moved by Councilor Evans, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gould. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Motion carried. Ghost coming in here? What's happening here? Ah, there we go. Okay, that would be a really good idea. Business issues, 6.1, water. Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Sorry, busy looking at the door opening and closing over to my right here and forgot to just let you go, so. 6.1, water operating and capital budget approval. Amy Hurdle, Director of Finance. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Worship. We went over this in the Committee of the Whole meeting last week, so I'm not going to go over it in great detail. But as you know, we haven't approved the water capital or operating budget for 2025, 2026 yet. We need to do that. In your package, there is a budget report for operating and capital items. Revenue is about budgeted at about 2.9 million, and expenditures are the same. The rates did go up a little bit based on the water rate study. That kind of gets set 3 years in advance. Other than that, unless there's questions, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. Anyone have any questions on this?
Just would add, if I could, Your Worship, that normally when we talk about the general budget, we're talking about tax rates, and those are certainly all within council's purview to adjust or approve. With the approval of the water budget, the rates are ordered by the Utility Review Board. So council does not have the authority or the ability at this stage, when we're not in a board order cycle, doesn't have the ability to vary or change the rates. So this is simply about approving expenditures and other revenues and capital projects.
Thank you very much. I will read the motion. The council approve the water capital and operating budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Somebody like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councilor Lee and seconded by Councilor Lockhart. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amy. 6.2, Spring Hill Elementary School score clock. Ally McCormick, Director of Recreation and Community Services. You now have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Included in your council package is a memo regarding the purchase of a score clock for the new, I guess not so new anymore, the Spring Hill Elementary School. The municipality received a request last May to co-purchase a score clock for the school, the cost of which was $25,023.42. The request was for the municipality to purchase 50%, with the remainder being funded by the Chamber of Commerce, and it was purchased and installed, and the municipality has received the Chamber's share of the costs. So staff are requesting that council authorize the withdrawal of $12,511.71 from the Spring Hill Area Rate Reserve to fund the purchase of the score clock at the Spring Hill Elementary School. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So the recommended motion is the council authorize the withdrawal of $12,511.71 from the Spring Hill Area Rate Reserve to fund the score clock at the Spring Hill Elementary School in accordance with Section 99, Paragraph 6 of the Municipal Government Act. If someone would like to make that motion. Moved by Councilor Lockhart, seconded by Councilor Strong. Any comments or discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. 6.3, thank you very much, Ellie. Christy Smith Community Fund, Heritage Models Association, and Advocate and District Development Association. Mr. McCracken, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. A municipality received a request from the foundation to be the funding intermediary for two projects the Christy Smith Community Fund is supporting. First is the Heritage Miles Association, $4,500 to hire a summer student. The second is for $26,000 for a temporary library location for the Advocate and District Development Association. They request this from us because the fund cannot donate and receive a charitable donation receipt from the recipients, and we've had similar requests like this before, as outlined in our previous discussions at committee of whole. There's a recommended motion in your package for consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kraken. The recommended motion is that council approve the request to receive up to $4,500 from the Christie Smith Foundation Community Fund and disperse the funds to Heritage Models Association, and that the request to receive up to $26,000 from the Christie Smith Community Fund and disperse the funds to the Advocate and District Development Association also be approved. Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Telling. Any comments or questions on any of this? Seeing none, I'll only make one, very quick one. Thank you so much to the Smith Christie Group for once again supporting the activities in our great county. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. 6.4, Clifton Fundy support request. Mr. McCracken, you now have the floor again.
Thank you again, Your Worship. A letter was received from the interim managing director of the Clifton Fundy Geopark requesting a letter of support from council. To keep its UNESCO designation, the Clifton Fundy Geopark is required to go through an evaluation every so often. 2023, the park had an evaluation completed and received a yellow rating, meaning they have several conditions to be met to retain their designation. One of which is that they obtain letters from municipality of Cumberland and Colchester committing to annual funding through 2028. The evaluators return, UNESCO evaluators return this July to do a follow-up assessment. So it's a bit of a timely request. Since the Geopark Society formed, we have received a request for funding annually, typically in the amount of $75,000. On 2 occasions, they've asked for and were granted more, including this year, which we've granted them $100,000. We can say that now in public because they're aware of that. And but there's no written agreement setting out, what amount we give every year, and any conditions that are attached to that. I did include a few items or pieces of paper for council's consideration. There was a request, I believe, from Councillor Fromm at the committee of the whole around the financial standing of the society. So you'll see in your package, there's a profit and loss statement from April 24 to March 25. There's also a balance sheet as of March 31st, 2025 from the society, as well as some notes from the interim managing director on some of the sources of funding and what those have been used for from the federal and provincial government. So it gives you an understanding of where some of the other revenue that they receive for their operations and special projects. I'll leave it at that, and there's a recommended motion in your package.
So the recommended motion is that council send a letter of support to the Clifton Fundy Geopark Society committing to $75,000 in annual funding for the fiscal years 2026 and 2027 and 2028, and furthermore that staff enter discussions with the Geopark for a written agreement outlining the terms and conditions of the annual funding. If someone would like to make that motion, please. Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gould. Any comments on this from anyone? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Thank you very much. Motion is carried. Moving papers around here all over the place. Where are we at? 6.5? Am I in the right place? Okay. 6.5. Yep. I've got an extra check mark or two on the sheet here, so. 6.5, glyphosate, am I saying that right? Glyphosate, say it backwards. Glyphosate, aerial spraying. Councillor Hotelling, this information is from you, so I'll give you the floor now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I brought the issue of glyphosate, aerial spraying of glyphosate up in council before, but we do have a new council now, and and I have a sort of different approach to it, so I'll just share some of the details in my agenda item request. So in 2024, 63 sites in Cumberland County were aerial sprayed with the herbicide glyphosate. In comparison, 25 other sites throughout the entire rest of the province of Nova Scotia were sprayed. This is a quite common percentage each September in Cumberland County, and I did share the list of all of the spray sites in the agenda package. So there have been numerous studies and research on whether glyphosate is harmful. Our federal government agency, the Pest Management Regulatory Agency, PMRA, is responsible for registering pesticides after a stringent science-based evaluation that ensures any risks are acceptable, and that's from their website. It seems some sources of information conflict with each other on whether glyphosate is a possible carcinogen or not, and there are several different lawsuits going on in North America around that. In this current time of an overwhelming number of species at risk of extinction or that have already gone extinct, many people feel we need to change the way we are doing things to protect the biodiversity of the environment around us. One example is the decrease in bee population that impacts our local agriculture, which is certainly affected by the aerial spraying of glyphosate. So I would like to ask Council to weigh in on this issue. It has come to me from concerned residents every year since I was elected in 2020, and June is our last scheduled Council meeting before the spray season begins in September. I'd also like to add before our discussion that one of the sites near Pugwash last year was pretty close to our water source, and I feel like that might be something that our council and maybe our Water Source Protection Committee should consider, is how close these sites are to our water sources. And just one last thing I'd like to say is, you know, at one point in history, many people believed that smoking cigarettes was not bad for your health. And after all I have read about glyphosate, I feel we will eventually come to the same conclusion. And I, for one, in good conscience, cannot sit here in a position that gives me a stronger voice for the local community and not try to bring it up and do something about it. So with that, I'd like to open the floor for discussion, and then I'd like to make a motion following the discussion, if that's okay. Your
We'll
Worship.
make the motion first, then we'll do the discussion. So if you're okay with that, we'll do it that way. Go ahead.
Okay, so the motion is that council have staff write to the PMRA and NSFM requesting a stringent science-based evaluation be done on the biodiversity loss resulting from the aerial spraying of the pesticide glyphosate, and that there be a pause on the aerial spraying of glyphosate until this important evaluation and research be completed.
Okay, so we have the mover for the motion, seconder for the motion, Councillor Redmond, and now we can open it up for discussion. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Lee, followed by Councillor Redmond.
Your Worship, thank you. I'd just like to weigh in a little bit on this. I didn't know a lot about this until I ended up in this position, and this was something that I was fast and furious provided with a lot of information around. I will share, with the limited knowledge that I'm fortunate enough to have a property that me and my son were living in at the time, and unbeknownst to me, we were outside and there was spraying occurring. Unfortunately, the posting, I had missed it. It's one thing to have an opinion on it, but would you, like, for me, it really opened my eyes if it's happening somewhere else, that's one thing, but when it impacted me and my son, I had a different perspective. So I'm weighing in that, yeah, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had, and I think it's long overdue, so thank you for making the motion.
Councillor Redmond.
I want to thank Jen for bringing this up again. I think this is a very important issue. We're not talking about ground spraying, we're talking about aerial spraying. if this was just on the ground, you have more control, as do farmers, because they spray it right on top of the plants. It doesn't spread over areas or tops of trees where there's bird nests, etc. So I too am in favor of revisiting this, and I think this is a very, very important issue for our future and for what's happening now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Gould.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So all the ones that are speaking are, well, I guess not all, sorry, are former ones that have been involved in this already a couple times. I hear a lot, I know, especially in the last election, because we had just dealt with it a couple of times. So it's a question of a lot of people when you're going around talking during election time. And I was very open and honest with everybody that I talked to, that I voted against writing a letter before. And the reason I voted against writing a letter is it's not about whether I'm for or against it. It's when you write a letter on behalf of a municipality, you're right, we are writing a letter on behalf of 20,000 people. So when we write a letter, I'm going to get emails tonight, just for speaking, from people who are mad because I spoke one way and people that are happy because I spoke another. But I have a hard time voting, and I've voted against, I think, every letter we've asked to write to province when we're asking the province to take some action. I have no problem if we're asking them to come and provide an information session, do that sort of stuff. I think that's our job. But when we're asking them to make a change, I have a problem because I don't know that more than 10,000 people are for or against something. So I don't want to make that decision for them unless I know for sure. So I voted against it before because of the fact that we don't know how many people are against it. I've read the information, and depending on whether you are for it or against it, you can find adequate information supporting both sides. And I'm not a scientist. I don't understand all of that stuff, so I have to rely on the people that are involved. And the reality is that it's the provincial government that regulates this, and so I'm just not comfortable asking them to make changes to the regulations based on the number of people that we're representing, because I don't know what the majority would like. So that's why I will be voting against it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Anyone else? Councilor Lockhart.
Yes, I sort of echo Deputy Mayor. I really, it was brought up a little bit when I knocked on doors, but again, it is a provincial issue. It is not our issue. And I don't think, if you look some of the blowback that some of the other municipalities have got just in the last little while writing the government on different issues, so I won't be supporting the motion based on that.
Anyone else want to chime in here? Councilor Redmond, go ahead.
With all due respect, and I see the opinion of those that think that everybody should, but we passed wind turbine things, letters, etc., and we have a letter going out today that I'm sure that there is a lot of people, our constituents, that aren't in favor of it. But when it comes to something that is a health issue, if our federal or provincial governments aren't doing anything about it, then I think it's our responsibility to keep this on the forefront, because I could go on about the health issues. They don't know what causes autism or ADHD, and we didn't have that back in school when I was younger. But now, the further on we go, every year there's more and more children that are born with these unknown causes of diseases that interfere with our education and their education, and trying to get people to work with them. I'm not saying that this is affiliated with it, but if we don't take control when somebody else isn't, then are we doing our proper job? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Redmond. Councilor Hotelling, go ahead.
Just a clarification as well, it is not a provincial, they are not responsible for it. It is the PMRA that's responsible for it, not the province.
And for reference again, the PMRA is?
Pest Management Regulatory Agency, they're
Okay.
federal government.
And is that a provincial agency or a federal one?
Federal.
Federal, okay, good. Just make sure, because somebody's watching this somewheres and wondering where it lands at and who owns it, so.
And in the motion, it does not say writing to the province, it just says
see.
writing to the PMRA.
Anyone else? Tony, go ahead, Counselor Frome.
I just, as a new counselor, I kind of, holy cow, what's going on here? Because it seems like the previous council received a lot of information, if I'm right about that. So I just wondering, should we be afforded the same information before we make a decision on this, or like?
I don't know, the minutes of in the previous meetings and what, I don't know, I'm a little unsure how to answer that for Councilor Frome. We did have, members from, DNR, here. We had people from, Environment. We had, presentations from different, stakeholders and people involved in that. Woodlot owners, I believe, were they also here too? It seems to me they were, so. Again, right now, my understanding is that the province is looking at this. It's on their radar of things to address in the next few months. And I don't know where they will land, who would know. At this point in time, it's hard to tell. But interestingly enough, it is back on their radar, or on the radar when it was never on it before. I should be a better way to put it. So, but there's a lot of science here. I mean, it's again like the mystery illness in New Brunswick with the people with the brain disease or whatever you want. I'm sure I don't have the terminology completely correct, but hopefully people understand what I'm trying to say. Initially, they had pegged that to be one cause, and then most recently, they have now discovered that science is advancing and saying that it could be a different cause. So, again, there's a lot of science that we do know. There's a lot of science that we don't know. There'll be new science come out between now and this time next year, suggesting one thing or another. So anyway, where, I guess it's each person's personal, thoughts and whatever, and how they feel about it. So, Councillor.
I think that if we send this letter, we will get a lot of useful information back that will probably fill the past council, or the new councilors, because it'd be next to impossible to explain what we were told and weren't told.
Councillor Strong.
I'd really like to have some more information from the organization before I make any determination, because I don't know. I am a new counselor. Also, we're trying to be strategic partners with our intergovernmental cooperation and with all of our federal and provincial agencies. And I would like to hope that maybe there is a way we can move forward without, having any friction between the two. Mm-hmm. And information really certainly can help. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other side of that is we're sitting here now and we know it's on the province's radar, and we're wondering how far up the radar it is and what the time frames might be and the timelines. I mean, we have no way of knowing. The Premier could make an announcement tomorrow about it for all we know. If you want, I'll pause it for a few months and get some information gathered up. I mean, that's another option, I believe. I'm not out of line here, am I, Mr. Hurt? In suggesting that? I mean, I'm not adding to the motion, we're having a conversation. Right? Okay. Councillor McCormick, go ahead.
I agree with Fred, and I agree with Councillor Lockhart. We already did get the information as previous council that was about this, and we already voted it. And I think it was, what was it, 6-2 vote, not in favor of it. So again, I will not be voting in favor for it because we got the information and we did our own research.
Councillor Lee.
This is it.
Round the horn one more time.
This is it, I promise. So I'm just gonna put this out here. I am new. There are workarounds to aerial spraying, such as silviculturing, which was huge job loss when all that disappeared. Just coming from that kind of background myself and having friends and family who did that. The people that spoke to me were not in favor, and that's the voice I have to share, the majority of the voice. I can't speak for all areas, but I speak for mine. And I think to follow up with that, I wouldn't want to sit where they're spraying. So that's what I had to ask myself moving forward is, would I be comfortable? And as a resident, I was not. So no matter which way it swings, I mean, I respect council, but yeah, that's just where I stand on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I will now call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those against the motion, raise your hand. The motion is defeated. Thank you very much. 7.0, information items. 7.1, council recognition. I will spit it out sooner or later. Councillor Gould, you're first up. Deputy Mayor Gould is, hey, put him back to councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I put down graduating class of 2025, and as someone who was at a school for the last number of years, and I'm retired now, I won't be specific to ARHS. So I want to, just for the whole county, I think it's really exciting time for all these graduating students as they take the next steps towards whatever they do, go in the workforce, go into school, whatever the case may be. And it's exciting times. I know as a parent and as a teacher, it's a worrisome time because you're always scared that their festivities might lead them down the wrong way and that things, might get out of hand. But we certainly hope them all the safety and all the best going into the future, and really proud of all the graduates here in Cumberland County as they move forward in their next adventures. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Gould. Councillor McCormick.
Sorry. Thank you, Worship. I have two, and one I didn't put on the agenda, and when I read it, you'll see why. I would like to take this moment to sincerely thank each employee of the municipality of Cumberland for taking time out of your day to help clean up a section of Highway 2. It's easy to walk past a problem, but it takes heart and commitment to stop and do something about it. Thank you for rolling up your sleeves and proving that a small group of people can make a big impact. I just want to thank the municipality staff. Second, same thing as Fred. Everyone knows tomorrow's graduation day across Cumberland County, but tomorrow is not just about grades and diplomas. It's about growth. It's about late nights spent studying, friendships that became lifelines, and challenges you faced and overcome. You've proven that you have what it takes to succeed. As you step into your next chapter, whether it's college, a career, or discovering what will come next, just remember it's your journey and embrace it. Oh, where'd I go? Embrace it. Learn from setbacks and stay courageous. And most important, stay true to who you are. And congratulations to every graduate out there. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lockhart, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to recognize Leah Killam, very popular lady in Spring Hill, on her 70th birthday. I was there on the weekend at her little party they had. It was great to see everyone out. And again, I'd like to congratulate all the graduates of Cumberland County. I was just thinking on the way up here, it wasn't long ago that CAO Harrod and I graduated together. 10 or 12 years ago, wasn't it great?
Now you're telling stories.
5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, and anyway, wishing them all the best
Decades.
of luck, and looking forward to going to Oxford tomorrow night to their ceremony. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Anne Murray, the Spring Hill's favorite daughter, 80th birthday, 54 million records, and a big celebration this summer for her, so happy birthday, Anne. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Lockhart. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the grads. You guys did it, Councillor McCormick, beautiful speech. Thank you. I'll just piggyback off yours. But tonight I wanted to recognize Margie Melanson. So Margie Melanson is the owner and operator of Bayview Restaurant, whose business has been a valued part of our community for many years. Margie's provided more than just a place to eat. She's created a safe, welcoming space. She's been a steady source of employment for residents and supports the area and community faithfully. For this reason and many more, I wanted to acknowledge Margie. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. I guess it's my turn now. I'd like to note that Gordon Helm, a longtime resident of Tidnish, recently celebrated his 90th birthday, and he got to celebrate it on the shores of the Tidnish River with all of his family home from away and around him, and I understand he had a great afternoon. Gordon was a longtime neighbor of ours many years ago, and is a great guy, very community-minded, involved in a whole lot of things going on in the community, and still going 100 mile an hour at 90 years of age. Happy birthday to Gordon. To John and Sylvia Kemp of Napan, congratulations on their recent 60th wedding anniversary. And I think they've spent most of the 60 years in that house in Napan, or so it seems. They've been there a long, long time. Anyway, I'd like to congratulate them and wish them all the best on their 60th anniversary. And last but not least, certainly, I would like to recognize Anthony Spalton of Tidnish Bridge, who was recently presented with the Order of the British Empire, and received his order traveled to Windsor Castle and received his order there, and hats off and congratulations to Anthony. He's recently retired and living a very quiet life now in Tidnish, but he spent a life of service around the world, and certainly was recognized and commended for it. And so hats off to him. Thank you very much. 7.2, status on dangerous or unsightly orders. Alan Cole, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before the session started, I handed out a revised list of orders to council. It basically updated the list that was in the council package. Quite a few of the orders are now completed, and so that's the update. In addition, as was discussed when the CAO was updating the business matters, the Leamington demolition should go ahead on Friday of this week. And happy to answer any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Any questions on this report? Councillor Lockhart, go ahead.
Thanks to the right person today, so thank you very much for doing a great job, Al. Thank you.
I'm going to put that down on the table so everybody can sign. Yeah, okay, good, thank you very much. Thank you very much on Mr. Cole. 7.3, commercial curbside collection. Justin Wallcrest, Director of Public Works. You've been hiding up in the corner all afternoon, so now you're down at the front. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. It has come to the municipality's attention that a number of commercial properties and apartment buildings more than 3 units that are being serviced through our residential solid waste collection program. This is contrary to our solid waste bylaw. Owners of these properties will be receiving letters informing that curbside collection of solid waste will be discontinued at their properties. The solid waste bylaw requires that solid waste generated by commercial properties and apartment buildings with more than 3 units must be managed at the expense of the property owners or the occupant. While it's acknowledged that the change will be inconvenient for those notified, it is necessary to ensure fairness of the provision of the service. The solid waste collection will discontinue these properties on October 6, 2025.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments about this? We've talked about it an awful lot. Councillor Lee, go ahead.
Just refreshing my memory, Your Worship, there was instructions or support offered for the individuals who are receiving this letter of how they could have their garbage collected moving forward, correct?
Go ahead, Mr.
Your
Walker.
Worship, the letter details that it'll be their responsibility to hire a private collector for their solid waste, or get a dumpster or bin, depending on the volume of waste they generate.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Perfect, thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing and seeing none, go. Thank you very much, Mr. Walcrest. And I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. And before we all go, there is